Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Myself, Connor. This one, Liam.
This one
Again,
yes,
he's
that's
here
me.
somewhere.
I am this one.
This. Although it is a Doctor Who video, this is the specific Shouting into the Void video, where we review episodes of Doctor Who. We're re-reviewing them as we've already seen them before. These aren't like straight off the cuff reaction reviews. We have simmered with these quite a while, especially these ones, which came out in 2010.
12
Because
years.
we have watched from 2005 to 2010. So we're now in Matt Smith's first series. We're halfway through.
Yeah, we're now shouting into the crack.
Yes, yes, literally. Oh boy, should have had that rerun. Oh, I don't know if that would do better for the SEO or not.
Banned, probably.
Yeah, oh, that's true. But yes, we are now halfway through series 5, episode 6.
I refuse.
Vampires of Venice. I feel like I'll refuse to watch this one again anytime soon. Not because it was bad, but because it was just middling. I felt there are some good things in this for me.
Okay.
Obviously, we're in Venice, which is great. We have Rory along with us, which is enjoyable. We have vampires, which are just aliens, of course. And the Doctor has to foil their plot to take over the Earth, as per usual. Yeah, I think this was just another sort of run-of-the-mill adventure for myself. What did you think?
I really liked it.
Yeah.
I really surprised myself. I
Uh-huh.
thought, yeah, it's going to be your average kind of deal. And then I got 10 minutes in, I'm like, I'm really enjoying this. I mean, I do think it loses itself near the end a bit. It's far from perfect, but I really didn't remember much. And I'm like, I'm quite enjoying this. I think unique-ish kind of villains in a sense. I think their plan is something we can discuss a bit later on. But yeah, I think there's some really great character stuff in there. I liked a lot of the extra characters we got. And yeah, I don't know quite what it is about it. There's something unique about it. Maybe that just the setting of Venice I thought was quite fun in itself. And again, a big continuation of like the silence and the cracks stuff. And they really let into it more than I remembered them doing. But granted, I haven't seen this episode in yonks, so that would be why. And it's always been one I've just disregarded. It's another one of those things where you haven't seen it in so long, and you're just like, oh yeah, it's fine, it's there. Kind of like a Doctor's Daughter situation with me. I was like, it's probably one of the weakest of the series for me. I'm not going to bother watching that again. But that was when I was a young boy, and I didn't critically think about things too much. And I was like, no, not enough explosions, not too much. But now I really surprised myself. I was expecting to have an okay time with it, and it exceeded my expectations, and then so I had a really good time with it. It was quite fun. So
fair enough.
I'm shocked, but I can also understand the views that this is very average and middling, because I think at its heart it is, but I'm still trying to work out what's different about it that I'm really connected with. But it is what it is.
Fair enough. I think that, to be fair, there are quite a few things that I like about this episode, but at the same time, there are quite a few things that I don't like. And for me, it's sort of one that, to what you were saying, I'll watch it and go, all right, then on to the next one. I don't think there's not really much in here that
it's not offensive.
I feel I need to see. No,
it's not like this is the Doctor Who episode I would watch whenever I feel like watching Doctor Who, or
I mean, it might be for some people, and if this is your episode,
I mean, in years to come,
great,
this might be mine. I don't know.
Could you imagine? Well, we'll get into it then. Normally, we have 3 positives and 3 negatives. I've pretty much kept myself to that this time, which again, I think lends itself to my feeling that this is just a fairly average episode, because it was just pretty simple for me to get 3 and 3. But we'll start with you then. If you loved it, what's your first positive?
My first positive is Helen McCrory as Rosanna. Definitely the standout of like the vampire villains we got, because they're like generic hench women, I guess. Although hench women is something entirely different. I love hench women. And Francesco is just kind of there for the most part, just mummy's boy. But yeah, I again, I think this is what surprised me is how much screen time she got in this. I think she was surprisingly well fleshed out. I love to see with her and the Doctor. I think whenever the Doctor, any Doctor, has a one-on-one with another villain, I think those scenes are always great. And I really enjoyed what she brought to that. Very commanding presence. I felt I liked the kind of calmness to her, but you could sometimes feel the anger kind of bubbling up, particularly near the end of the episode when things start going wrong for her. So I like that kind of unraveling, and then just to see her completely lost by the end, and she's like, "Well, I'm a head out, and eat me, brothers," as you do.
Sons, actually.
Well, yes, I guess.
Yeah.
A lot of mummy issues in this one,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I just thought it was a really great performance from Helen in general, and yeah, a real kind of standout. I say humanoid villain. I know she's not really, but I think it's very easy for a character like that to just kind of be like, yeah, okay, fine, off you go. Kind of forgettable. But for me, I really enjoyed what she brought to this. I think it helps that Helen was, a very capable actress who can command a setting. Just as like a guest actor, it feels like she could have been around for multiple episodes at this point. I think she has a lot of kind of command over her character. Some fun facts will explain that she did have quite a lot of command over her character, which we'll get onto. But yeah, it's just something about her I really enjoyed character-wise. And I think, the background of her whole race running from the silence. And, all those comparisons to what you sacrifice to save an entire race and how that could tie back to the Doctor and his regrets about the Time War and everything. I thought that was something a bit more interesting to do with a villain who, let's face it, has a very generic plot and very generic plan. I'm glad that there was like a more personal flair to her, I guess, that could tie into the Doctor. Really examines his moral compass in a similar way to what Rory does in this episode as well, about people, wanting to impress the Doctor, and that gets them in danger and stuff. So he's kind of challenged from all sides, from both an ally and a villain in this. And I really enjoyed Rosanna's role in that.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough, and I like that it establishes that she's going to get eaten, or if she goes near the water, because at the start they're like, oh, they're going to think that you're dinner, because for some reason they're not aware that that's the mum.
They're thick, yeah.
I'm pretty sure. And yeah, I do think she is she's not on my positive list, but she is definitely one of the highlights of the episode. And it does have, I think it's, the plot is generic, and their plot is generic, but it still has that sort of personal element behind it. It's not just I want to take over the earth for the earth's sake. It's I want to save my kids, so I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Which is why I thought it was kind of a bit strange that the Doctor's not like, hey, I can take you to a different planet. We can sort of go somewhere. Even there's the opportunity where she's like, we'll do anything on your terms. Let's work together on this. At that point, Doctor will be like, hey, okay, come with me. We're gonna get you to another planet where you can live peacefully. But that didn't happen because Doctor angry.
But angry boy yet again.
Yes, but yeah, that's fair enough. I do think she's a highlight. And my first positive is someone you've already mentioned, Rory.
Hey.
I think he was great in this. I think he definitely challenged both Amy and the Doctor in positive ways and made them grow as characters. Amy more so than the Doctor probably, but he was around to sort of give the Doctor that sort of realization that, hey, you may think you're taking these people on great adventures, but you will cause them to put themselves in danger and sometimes kill themselves because they want to impress you. And I like that dynamic is introduced now so early on in Matt Smith's sort of run, and it's something that plays a part in further down the line as well, on a number of things, especially middle of Series 6. With A Good Man Goes to War.
And the girl they waited as well. Kind of, he challenges the Doctor on that. I mean, the Doctor's done that episode. So.
Yeah, and I do think Rory and Arthur Darvill was great. Sort of he grows in confidence, I think, in this, from what we see at the start and in the 11th hour to what we sort of have at the end, where he's like, yeah, let's go, I want to go.
Yeah, he earns his place in this one, I think, which is quite cool to see.
Which feels warranted for this. The Doctor could have had, the Christopher Eccleston Mickey thing, like, oh no, don't want him around kind of thing, or could have had the Rose Mickey thing where the Doctor asked, Mickey to come, and Rose is like, oh, don't want him around. But it feels like there's the nice dynamic where they all sort of, now that they've had the issue that was there, and I think it's glazed over a little bit too quickly, but I still feel there's a nice dynamic there now that we're going to see for one episode and then it'll be gone until they come back at the end series. But I think there's a nice dynamic there forming for this TARDIS trio that I'm excited to see for more of, and Rory's a key part of that, and he is one of the highlights for me in this episode.
It's nice knowing that Rory's like around basically all the time from now on.
But pretty much until he dies and until he comes back. But but
that's like 3 episodes.
3 episodes out of what, 2.5 seasons ish. 2 seasons. But yeah, I think he's great. I think Arthur Darvill was great in it. He really does a good performance and a good job for this one. What is your second positive?
My second positive is something I don't talk about a lot with Doctor Who, and I feel like I probably should talk about it more, but I think it really stood out to me in this one. The costumes.
All right,
I thought they were all really well designed in this one.
The really tight-fitting stag do jumper on the Venetian gondola man.
I love this one quite. It's hilarious. But yeah, obviously I'm talking about Rory Stag do outfit. Amy on, of course. Not anything in Venice at all.
No.
The really intricately well-designed costumes made specifically for this episode. Just Stag do, like printed T-shirt that they probably cost them like £3 at Tesco or something to print. But yeah, I really love. I think that's what makes this quite unique for me, I guess, is that I was noticing things that I don't often appreciate as much as I should. But I think it's obvious when their clothes are as bold as they are, in this time period, it makes sense. But like Rosanna's dress and everything, how that reflects what her true form actually looks like, with like the big spikes and stuff on the back. Francesco's look, with the exception of the hat, which I think makes him look ridiculous. But I suppose
that's what makes him look ridiculous.
He's a ridiculous boy. And yeah, all of that. Guido's look as well, before he swaps and puts Rory's clothes on. All of that.
Hey, that's his best look when he's wearing Rory's clothes. Where his daughter goes back in, he's like, shouldn't be funny. You're sad, but you're there going, oh, this big tight red.
Poor Rory and his self-confidence. But all of that stuff. I just think for like the period pieces and stuff, really well designed. They look great. Always fun to kind of see them in like the Doctor Who exhibitions and stuff. I don't know if they're still going to be there in Liverpool, but they used to be in like the Doctor Who experience and stuff, particularly Rosanna's dress I remember seeing. And yeah, I just think the design work that goes into them really, really cool. I like how they reflect like the true nature that we can't show too much of because of budget. And yeah, I just think the whole kind of costuming for this entire episode is really good.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think it's sort of big William Shakespeare vibes. Shakespeare Code had a really good costuming, which is something that even when they do historicals, Doctor Who tends to kind of sort of keep it very service level with its costumes, very sort of generic. But I feel this one and the Shakespeare one really stand out as they went all out with what costumes they had. Maybe it's because they've got other BBC dramas that are no longer using that clothing. They go, oh, can we just thanks. And then, it's probably whatever's cheapest, but it's still, it does the job very well. And to be fair, all of the vampire ladies are just in white gowns with white veils, which is probably a very cheap costume. But, outside of that, I think it is a very well done episode. Even Rory's stag do costumes, I'm sure if you had one of them, I'm sure they could go for a good couple of £1,000s on eBay now. If they were legit.
And I enjoy the series 5 rule of the Doctor wears blue bow tie and blue shirt when he's in the past and red in the future. I like that they stick to that. It's fun.
What does he wear in present day?
You don't want to know.
We'll find out in his last episode what he wears in present day.
Yeah, it's true.
Fair enough. Speaking of the Doctor, not what he wears, but I really enjoyed Matt Smith in this episode.
I did too.
The 11th Doctor. I thought he was great. I think he can again go from the sort of charming tour guide, let's have a wander, let's enjoy ourselves, to the threatening, I'm going to stop you, and there's nothing you can do to stop that. I will.
Because you didn't remember Isabella's name.
Yeah, I think he maybe basically. I think he probably jumped the gun a little bit in terms of just not offering any help. He probably could have been like, hey, let's jump in my TARDIS and go, because he often makes that option available to people. But what can you do?
He also doesn't a lot of the time as well.
Yeah,
right
exactly. Yeah. And yeah, I think I enjoyed his dynamic with the companions and with I've forgotten his name, but the gondola man.
Guido.
That's him. Yeah, I enjoy his dynamic there, and sort of when he realizes that, he's gonna die, he's gonna kill himself because his daughter's obviously dead. Yeah, I just enjoyed his presence a lot. I think he was used more in this than I remember him being used.
Yeah.
And again, it also comes back to that he was challenged a lot by Rory in terms of like his morals and things like that. And yeah, I think he was great in this. I don't know when they filmed this in terms of episode order, but it does feel like he's sort of found his footing in terms of how he wants to play this in this series at least. Which has been really good. But yeah, so what's your final positive?
My final one, what was it? The Doctor and Rory's relationship was mine. Mm-hmm. So it does kind of include Amy a bit as well, obviously, because that's a big part of their relationship throughout. But I it's always like the Doctor and Amy when people like discuss the series and stuff, or like the trio of all three of them that people remember. Mm-hmm. But I do enjoy when it's just the Doctor and Rory as well. Just those two together. I think they have some really great scenes in this, and Day of the Moon I think also is really great for their relationship and the girl they waited. And yeah, I again, Rory challenging the Doctor's morals I think was a really interesting thing. Makes sense to come from his outside point of view as well, and the fact that he'd been doing a bit of research into like how the TARDIS could work and everything.
Yeah.
So I like that we're still seeing like in the end seen impact of what the Doctor's actually done to Rory, because gonna mess the guy up, and especially when he then turns up again at his stag do, bursting out of the cake, diabetic. But yeah, I really enjoyed that kind of challenging that Rory kind of brought to the fold. It shows his growth as well by pairing him with the Doctor and having Amy go off and be bitten. And all of that, just seeing the dangers, but ultimately Rory can kind of see, I think by the end, like why Amy would want to stick around, and he's kind of okay with that. The Doctor's very willing to just have him be on board. He's like, yeah, fine by me, which is very wholesome. And I like that the Doctor was very respectful of Rory's kind of situation in this one, I feel like, for the most part. He was the one. It should have been Amy who told him this, but he was the one who's like, look, it would have been you. It should have been you. She'd been through some shit. All of that, and kind of suggesting, when they like talk about what plan they should do and how they should sneak in, he wasn't being like, I will be Amy's husband. He was like kind of pitching something else to kind of spare his feelings and stuff. So I do like that he had Rory's thoughts in mind just as much as Amy's in that situation. It's just a very wholesome kind of bond that those two kind of begin to share in this one. They definitely have a bit more of an understanding, and I think that's what makes the trio work as well as it does by the end. And moving forward is what those two kind of have. I think it also helps that Matt Smith and Arthur Darvill were friends for years prior to this, so I think that definitely comes across in how well they can work together. But I just, it's a nice refreshing thing to have, the Doctor and a male companion at this point, and it's not like they're always going to be at odds for each other, and there's nothing they like about either or of them. I think there is kind of a bond there starting off, and I enjoyed seeing it properly get started in this one.
Yeah, and it makes a good change from having, the previous time we've had this was obviously with Rose and Mickey. That's a very different example to what we sort of see here, whereas the Doctor at that point was very dismissive of Mickey and very sort of like, oh, I don't want you around, go away. This one, the Doctor feels more like he's inviting him aboard and trying to get him on board with what they're doing and trying to sort of involve him, which is
because you didn't really get that much of the Doctor and Mickey together, just exploring that side of things. And I like that they took the time in this one to kind of do something a bit different with the Doctor and Rory.
Yeah, that's fair enough. My final positive is the sort of the comedy, the humor in this episode. I quite enjoy a lot of it. Yes. There's the bit where he shows his library card instead of his psychic paper, and he does that. Oh yeah, it's with, and then just does the nose thing. The whole sequence where he first meets the vampire ladies is quite humorous in the first place, where he's checking the mirror, asks for the plan, and just runs away.
One day that'll work.
Yeah, and then obviously, as mentioned, the gondola guy in the big red shirt, which I always find very funny. It's a very sad scene, and he's just stood there. Just like that. Like literally, like my mum said, it's my turn on the Xbox. Stood there. And I'm like, that's funny. Obviously, the whole not first scene, but scene before the credits where he bursts out the cake. It's quite humorous. You've got the compulsory penis joke with the lights, which is hilarious, obviously. But yeah, I think there's a lot in this when, you know, there's just little things when the Doctor's holding both of their mouths to shush them. And he's like, oh.
I love that. I'd completely forgotten about that. I mean, it makes Rory funny. Yeah.
And then obviously you've got the whole, the neighbours upstairs are quite loud, and he's like, oh, I knew you would say that. You know, there's a lot of good bits of humour in this, which again helps contrast sort of the seriousness when Matt Smith does it. You know, when the Doctor's got to be like, I'm going to kill you all. You know, there's still that humorous side there, and I really appreciate it. You know, you could argue that the Francesco's mummy stuff is funny.
Not for you.
We'll come on to him. But you know, that the scene where Rory's got the broomstick and Amy's like, hit him, and he just goes, oh, and it just the bristles just hits him. I'm like, oh god. You know, that's funny. Yeah, and there's a lot of good unexpected humor I found in this one. I didn't expect it to be sort of as funny as it was.
I think they get the balance of like the humor and the danger right, because it's kind of like the balance of like what life as a Doctor is. You know, they show what Amy does enjoy about it and why she'll keep doing it, but also you can see why Rory's like, this is a bit dangerous, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I quite enjoyed it. There's a lot of good funny moments in this, which, you know, you always want to see in these episodes. Yes. So have you got any other positive points you want to touch on?
I thought the pacing of the episode was really good. I enjoyed that. I found that particularly when I like stopped myself like 10 minutes in and like, damn, because this was a bit of a longer episode as well. This was 48 minutes. So that was a surprise to me, but I enjoyed that. And again, the continuing of like the Cracked in Time silence arc, seeing just like what its effects are like having on like the wider universe and people who were like directly affected by it. It was fun to bring them into the story and get a sense of like the scale of it, but we still don't know the answers quite yet.
Yeah. My additional one was sort of the crack impact. Sort of seeing, sort of seeing, you know, how this strange event. It feels like this is what Flux wanted to be, where there was this thing going on that was, you know, universe ending and people were impacted and stuff. But for Flux, it was more a case of this needs to happen at the forefront of the episode, whereas the cracks are sort of more background until they need to be brought forward in the finale. But again,
the cracks in the back.
Yeah, that's it's mainly because, you know, this is a full series and not being have to film in 6 episodes in COVID, you know, secure things, which is, you know, that's fine. But yeah, I do really like where the plot is going, and I like most of how it's used in this one. I've got sort of an additional negative later on that relates to it, but it's more of a personal thing rather than anything to do with the actual plot. But yes, we do need to move on to the negatives, as always. So what is your first negative?
The villain plot, just kind of basic bitch, generic. This land is our land now. We're going to transform it into our home world. You know, it's one of those things, you know. It's a classic, and I can see why they keep doing it, because it's kind of easy, especially when there's a lot of character stuff in this one that needs to address with the Doctor, Amy, and Rory, so it kind of makes sense. But yeah, it's just in terms of something to get hyped about or get invested in plot-wise, maybe not the strongest, and something we've just seen before. I appreciate that in the more personal flares with like the silence arc tying into Rosanna's spheres and everything with that. But yeah, you can't get away from the fact that the plot line probably isn't like oh, that's clever, or oh dear, that sounds quite dangerous, because, you know, also it's in the middle of the series, which obviously just isn't going to help, and there's normally a middle of the series slump, particularly with Doctor Who. But yeah, it's one of those basic things. You can understand why, because there's a lot of character stuff in this one and a bit of advancement in that kind of respect, but it doesn't also take away from the fact that maybe something more could have been done with the more generic parts of the plot to make it a bit more interesting. Yeah,
I think that's fair. I think, there are nice sort of personal moments to it. You know, she's doing it for her kids type thing, but then part of me is like, well, you know, if you want to flood the earth, just team up with the sea devils and have, you know, just do it together, because you both clearly want the world like flooded and stuff. So you just, you know, work with each other and do it yourselves.
Yeah, wake them up, then they exist.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, you never know. It's just I think, but again, as you mentioned, it is very much like a mid-season. It doesn't need to be a big universe-ending plot for this episode, so it's fine. My first negative, mainly for the sort of first half of the episode, is Amy herself.
Right.
She's not great.
She's not great.
Yeah, we mentioned, even the first scene when like Rory's in the TARDIS, she's not like even trying to be like, oh, I'm so sorry. She doesn't. She kind of apologizes, I think, halfway through, but it's very much glossed over, and she just, I feel she gets away with it.
She gets off a bit too easy, I think.
And yeah, I think she's just a bit rude to Rory as well, and inconsiderate of his feelings. There's the whole thing where the psychic paper calls me eunuch, which isn't necessarily Amy's fault, but she's just kind of goes, yeah, oh well. And then obviously the whole, oh, you can be my brother type thing is
that was, I think for me, that was her worst moment in the episode. I was like, yeah, how are you just being so casual and careless about this?
Yeah. It feels very much like careless, and maybe that's why she sort of, when she gets captured and she sort of has a near-death experience, then she reevaluates, and then it gets better after that with Rory. Yeah. But before that, it's very much a case of she's just trying to. It feels like she's trying to make him break up with her, so she doesn't have to do it herself. So she can just like keep sort of at arm's length, and if he just decides, nah, never mind, then whatever, then it's fine. That saves her hassle. But then by the end, she's sort of like, actually, he's the one that cares about me more. He's the one that will still be there if the doctor goes off or whatever.
Yeah, and she actually wants him to travel with them, which is a nice development.
Yes, and obviously this all plays more into next week as well with Amy's choice, which will obviously, look at that a bit more. But I think in this one, and I sort of messaged you while I was watching it, at least this is like, I think, the last of terrible Amy that we really get. From here on in, I feel she's more of the couple than separate. And I think that, well, when Rory's there, at least, obviously we've got the episodes coming up where he's dead, so she can't be that. But especially in the next two parts with the Silurians, there's more. You see that they're a couple in that one, and you see there's that connection. And I feel that comes through on this, but she's still terrible in this one. She gets away with it a lot, which is lucky because at least Rory wasn't framed for her murder, which might have made things a bit harder.
That's true, for a whole year.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a good thing that they luckily the doctor managed to get there. I guess the day before their wedding, because nobody has their bachelor party the day of their wedding. So I can only assume he's before Amy's left, that he's gone to pick Rory up.
I think, when she goes off with him, so it was the night before her wedding, she said, wasn't it? When it went off originally. So while she's there, I guess he's at his party.
Oh, maybe. I always assumed it was in the day though, but maybe that's just because bright lights. That makes me think daytime. I don't know.
I see.
Don't know. I always assumed that it was in the day, so he picked her up. He picked him up before Amy technically went in the TARDIS, and so it's a bit like a weird crossover. But you see from the whole sort of that whole thing where he's phoning Amy and leaving a voicemail, where it's like, that's a wholesome man that to be honest, Amy does not deserve him at this point. No. At this moment, at least the first half of the episode doesn't deserve him whatsoever, but it's kind of resolved now. It's even progressing further.
It's kind of their arc, isn't it, really, particularly series 5. So.
Yeah. So it's fine.
But it will be smoothed over.
Yeah, she's just terrible in this one, and not as bad as the end of last week, but still bad.
One day those two will throw themselves off a roof. So.
Love it. You'll have to see.
Cute.
So what is your second negative?
Let's have a look. Just the whole kind of climactic fixing of the problem, that sequence, again, kind of generic. It's just Amy Roy stood there watching, unable to do anything as the doctor's fiddling with the control panel. Hooray, the day is saved. Classic Doctor Who kind of saving the day sequence. But again, because the stakes did feel kind of personal and they did tie it to personal motives and stuff, the fact that it just goes down to, Idiot's Lantern, climb this tower and save the day kind of deal, I think is kind of a shame. I think I'm at least grateful that happened, and then there's still 10 minutes left so they could have the scene of Rosanna throwing herself in the water and everything like that. But still, this was the moment it was kind of building towards, and it's oh god, it's all going to go horribly wrong, and I never really felt like anything was in danger with that. Because it was just generic clouds in the sky kind of dealy. So I think more so it's a shame because I think the build up to it was pretty good in terms of characters and what they were kind of going with. You know, I think the threat of like what was in the water and stuff was a bit more interesting than let's just
Bubbles.
make it rain. And yeah, bubbles and stuff. So yeah, that's kind of my one. A minor one, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, because you know it's fine. The plot and what needs to be stopped isn't really the main point of this episode, but it's there regardless. So I will critique it. God damn it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, it gave me big like the next Doctor vibes where he's like on top of things and then everyone's like cheering him on at the end. I'm like,
oh yeah,
nice.
Oh.
Cool, you did it. Yeah, even though most of the public won't know what happened, they'll just assume the rain stopped and they just went, "Yay, weather!" But
we did it.
we did it. We stopped it raining. Yeah. But yeah, I get your point. My next negative is Francesco.
Yes, he plays chess.
He's just a character that doesn't need to be there, isn't he?
Aww.
I'm not wrong.
I mean, he doesn't need to be there. I quite like him. I'm just going to say it. I think you're mean, but also it's fair.
I think, but like, I don't think it's established very well how come can come out and walk around, whereas like his brothers can.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's the case. I mentioned to you, I think it's terrible at times. You can see where his fake teeth are in compared to where they're not. Where he goes and
when he's approaching the flower vendor, and he's like,
"Yeah, that's the worst bit. That is the worst one." I'm like,
"Oh, have you got something in your mouth there, buddy?"
You don't even need that. You don't. I mean, I guess they take too long to put in, so they probably filmed all the scenes where he has to have them in like one day.
Yeah, especially because they were filming all that stuff abroad as well.
Yeah, so that's probably why, but it doesn't look very good. And yeah, I think because of that as well, there's a load of lines that are dubbed over it as well, especially during Rory's fight scene.
That was my additional negative. Is like some ADR stuff.
Yeah, I'm not gonna smell like whatever it was, roses or something like that. And I was like, oh, that's a terrible line.
Cheese and crackers.
That's it. Cheese and biscuits. I was like, oh, great, yeah.
And then he's like, "Did you say something about money?" And like,
yeah,
so clearly ADR. Like you're not saying words. Like you're not enunciating them.
Yeah, and it's I feel that the character kind of undermines the sort of the main plot. Like, obviously, the whole point is that she wants to save her kids and she wants them to live a happy life and stuff. But then you see this kid, and you're like,
you want to save them?
Don't want you to save your kids. Sorry, because he's just terrible. He goes around and he's like, let's eat people in broad daylight because I can. And I'm like, oh, mate, you're undermining your cause. And I think that's part of the issue there. But he's just so unnecessary. You could make that more interesting, but he's just unnecessary as the servant man that like lets people in, who is also there but doesn't know that they're fish people. But then when he realizes, he's like, oh, okay, he just goes for it.
Okay, it's fine.
So I'm like, all right. But yeah, I mean,
they just wanted a male vampire in there, didn't they, to make the action figure of it, and never make the action figures of any of the female vampires. How about that?
Yeah, well,
like that.
Yeah,
Francesco got the figure.
I know. It's just he's just an unnecessary character. He doesn't necessarily do much. He gets beaten by a makeup mirror in the end, and then he dusts
because it allows Amy and Rory to make up,
and then they kiss, and I'm like, all I can think is, he's got dead alien in his mouth, mate. Yeah. I wouldn't kiss him.
But Amy also still has a alien in her mouth, I imagine. So.
Sure.
Perfect match.
Yeah, but yeah, he was just unnecessary, and unfortunately, he just didn't need to be there, and he just let the side down pretty much.
Yeah, that's fair. He doesn't need to be in it.
No. Cool. So, what is your final negative?
Yes, my final negative is it's just, I don't know if it's like just a weird like characters are dumb moment or just a bit of oversight in the writing. I don't know, but it's when Amy's like, well, the doctor can't go, can he? Because they've seen the doctor already. and then immediately that Amy's plan to bring herself and Roy there scuppered because Francesco recognizes her. I'm like, you could have ruined everything right from the start anyway, because you chased after him, and you're like, So I just thought that was a bit of a weird moment, and I feel like maybe something could have just happened another way, because it's just like, have we met? No. Okay.
They could just take out the scene where he like does his whole thing, goes and walks away from them. You know, they could just have.
He just got away, and then
he screams and he leaves, and then or they stumble on the. I don't know, but that's fair.
It's a minor quibble, but I was like, that's you like disregarding one plan because they've already been, the Doctor's been seen, but you've also been seen, and they don't even like address that possibility. It just felt a bit weird. It felt like maybe something got cut there. I don't know. But,
yeah, that's fair. My sort of third one, and again, it's also quite a minor one, is I felt the design of the alien, which to be fair isn't used very often, is very Prisoner Zero, but with more bits.
Interesting, you should say that.
There we go. And I realised that when I was watching this, I was like, that's Prisoner Zero's head, but they've got some spider legs. I was like, okay, I see you're saving some money there, but
I'll talk about it in some fun facts.
Nice. Well, I didn't like it, so there's that.
I think it ties into the whole Cracks in Time deal, is my theory, based on some fun facts I've got.
Maybe. All right. Well, maybe I'll remove it from my negatives based on the facts when we hear them. In which case, my third negative will be the forced silence moment at the end of the episode.
Yeah, that doesn't need it. I like it to an extent. I'm like, okay, cool, but then they have to put in the bloody flashback of her talking about it. Like, no, we've done this. No, no.
Here we go.
Like, well, no, this was from earlier.
You're doing so well.
We don't need this. Yeah, that was a shame. I do think, the very ending is weird, and it's not a fault of the episode right now, but also I don't know if it really makes sense in the grand scheme of what gets revealed about the silence and stuff. Anyway, I don't really know. Like, maybe it's just a moment of the town's suddenly just quieting down.
Yeah, but they kind of it implies that everyone's vanished. I get that implication that everyone's just been got because it's all quiet.
Oh, maybe they got absorbed by the Crack in Time.
That's what I get, and then I think to make that better, it should have done a, similar to what they do in the Lodger. Not getting ahead of myself, but where it sort of pans over and you see the crack next to the thing. It could have done something like that where. They're like, oh, it's quiet, and then TARDIS disappears, and rather than zooming in on the keyhole, which is also another weird way to
that was a very strange thing.
Have it disappear and the crack be behind and sort of leaking out or whatever, because then that also leads into the Silurian two-parter where the crack sort of spreads out.
Yeah, I've never considered that in all my years. It's almost as if I never rewatched this episode.
No, there you go.
I've never considered it, but that makes sense.
Yeah, I've always assumed that the crack got them.
Crack always gets in the end.
It still throws up questions like, why didn't it get Rory and the Doctor and Amy in? And it also, it doesn't excuse the fact that it's like, can you hear that? It's like, oh no, I just hear silence. I'm like, oh, shut up.
You don't hear silence. That's the point.
That's terrible dialogue. Stop it. It just feels so forced because obviously we've already had this. You could just you only need the silence and the crack stuff in the sort of the confrontation. You don't need it again there. We know what the situation is. You don't need to remind us again. Maybe because they don't have one for next week, they needed to put two in this week. I don't know.
Maybe.
But yeah, that was just an unnecessary scene that ends it, and then it leaves a sour taste in my mouth as well. I'm like, oh. Yeah. That's the last thing you think of the episode is, oh great, that scene, and the zoom into the keyhole as well.
It's such a weird choice.
It's not terrible.
Time vortex is inside. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, especially
because it makes a bit more sense in other platforms where the credits just roll from there, but we get the next time on trailers. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. The zooms in and it's like zoom. Oh, okay. Next time. Okay.
Yeah, because some versions of it have the next time trailer at the end.
Right.
So it just you zoom in, then it's the credits. But when I watch on iPlayer, I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I watched iPlayer this week. I didn't watch. I'll check my Blu-ray and see if it's the same.
Yeah, I have to see if it's like.
Maybe.
UK releases probably have it that way, but
never mind.
Oh, well.
Cool. Have you got any other negative points you want to touch on?
Just some of the distracting ADR was my other kind of mention. It was a choice, but I can understand. Again, I got some fun facts about it. I can understand why they had to do it, but some of it is just so like, oh god. There's also a bit where guy turns around. What's his name now? I've just forgotten his name. But Guido, when he turns around, and he's like leaning into the fireplace or something, and he says something like, "You're not actually saying that. That's ADR."
Yeah.
And I don't often notice ADR quite that strongly, but there's so much of it in this one. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, this one is always in my head. It's been notorious for the ADR, especially the cheese and biscuits line. It's just and the did you say something about like just that's again, I get it, he's got big teeth in, he probably can't talk very well, so they had to kind of do it, and maybe they didn't have very good sound where they were filming and all sorts of reasons, but
that's also true. Yeah,
but yeah, fair enough. Cool. I don't have any other negatives. Sort of, yeah, I feel it was just a bit of just a bit more. It just felt a bit, there wasn't too much going on, I don't think. It's hard to explain. It just felt a little bit, I think it needed a little bit more to stand out for me. Also, I want to point out is why would the lady laugh at the Ofsted joke that Amy makes?
I thought that seemed really strange. That felt like something got cut.
I was like,
do you know what Ofsted is?
Yeah. It's like, I don't think you know what Ofsted is, love.
I'm wondering if, like, in where she comes from, Ofsted's just like a really rude word. She's like, what you like?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe that's it.
In the target novelization, we'll find out.
Yeah, we will. Turns out Ofsted is like the official forum. I'm trying to think of the words. See the end death. I don't know.
Wow.
I fell through.
I'm pretty sure that's what it actually stands for. So.
Yeah, probably.
If you're a teacher, that's what it stands for.
Also, obviously, the guy wants to put his daughter in there, but he doesn't realise she has to leave straight away. I was like, you probably should have done your research a bit there, lad.
Yeah, I didn't think that through. I know you're desperate and all, but come on.
Yeah, and again, I just want to highlight him in the big red shirt. It's just, I just can't get over it. Like when he's on the gondola, I'm like, oh, that's funny. But then it's like, oh no, your daughter's gonna die, and he's just there, and I'm like, oh,
yeah.
He's just
I thought his daughter died. I was like, damn.
Because it's like his whole body just goes, when he's sort of like his head goes, his whole body just sort of moves, and it's funny. It shouldn't be funny, but it's funny. But yes, fun facts. So what have you got?
Fun facts. I got fun facts aplenty.
Yay.
Okay. Working titles included Blood and Water. I can see where they got that from. And The House of Calvieri. Again, I can see where they got that from. Mark Gatiss came up with the final title, inspired by the song title Werewolves of London by Warren Zevon, which is an excellent song. Do listen to it if you haven't. The Series 5 trailer includes the shot of Francesco leaping at Rory, but removed its transformation into his alien form from the final episodes to keep that twist under wraps about like they're actually aliens.
Twist.
What a twist indeed, but fun. The Doctor mentions having a bet with Casanova, an in-joke, as David Tennant played Casanova in 2005 in the series written by Rusty Davies. Helen McCrory, who played Rosanna in this episode, played Casanova's mother in the show as well. Oh. So all the links all the time. Only 5 British actors are in everything. This is the first episode of Doctor Who to have the final shot bleed into the end credits instead of a cut, unless you're in the UK and get the banned version of the episode. The episode was primarily filmed in Croatia, the 3rd time the new series has filmed abroad. The other times were Fires of Pompeii and Planet of the Dead. Famously average episodes, all of them. When Calvieri was looking up at the sky as it was transforming, the statue next to her resembles Prisoner Zero. So there you go.
Okay.
I guess because they like ran from the cracks and stuff, and they like may have like entered it or whatever. I think maybe they saw Prisoner Zero through it, and there's some inspiration there. I don't know, but
unless Prisoner Zero is one of them, I don't.
Maybe they're cousins. I don't know. Maybe that's what they look like in the water. I don't know. But I quite like that link. I think it's a nice bit of world building if you wanted to explore it.
It sure is no Slovene and Absorbaloff link, though, is it? With the Vaxcross,
yes. Thank God they linked the Slovene to 11 Monsters. Aren't we lucky?
Oh yeah, iconic.
The Doctor's library card lists his address as 76 Totters Lane, which is where he and Susan lived in An Unearthly Child, which is very wholesome. Get it updated, sir. The writer, Toby Whithouse, wanted to emphasise the danger the Doctor puts people in, noting companions often develop the mentality of running towards danger that the Doctor has. He saw Rory's inclusion in the story as a way of challenging that, which we did see. Helen McCrory's costume was designed to resemble her character's alien form, with the spikes and stuff, which I like. Each pair of vampire teeth was uniquely moulded to the comfort of each actor's mouth, knowing that
Sure,
there
it
would be
looked
trouble pronouncing, knowing that there would be trouble pronouncing the lines properly, lines were re-recorded in post-production to sound smoother, hence the horrendous ADR.
Hence
But,
why
you know,
it doesn't sound smoother.
yes, well, it sounds smoother than it would have been.
The words sound cleaner, but it's not smoother in the scene.
No,
I think.
yes,
Yeah,
but it is to
Yeah.
sound smoother, as the fan
Sure.
said. Stop bashing. In the original script, a large monster rose out of the water during Isabella's death scene, but it had to be made an unseen creature due to budget restrictions.
Of course.
The true enemy of Doctor Who, budget.
Budgets.
This is also why the Saturnine's true form could only be shown very briefly every now and again, because they were very, very expensive models to show.
Yeah.
Oh, BBC. It was Stephen Moffat's idea to have Guido and Rory trade clothes. Toby Whithouse was originally against this idea, as Guido was supposed to be a tragic character, but eventually thought the idea of Guido in Rory's stag t-shirt in particular would be very funny. And
it was. And then even though he's
right.
a tragic character, it's so funny when it's sad.
Yeah, exactly.
You should have done it. You should have stayed firm, Toby. It would have made it. It would have made it. I mean, I like it, but it does lose the dramatic effect when he's there in his stag do shirt. I feel
for you.
Yeah.
The script was originally too long, and some sequences had to be cut even after they were already filmed, including a fight between the Doctor and Rosanna's steward. So that's why he did nothing, because they cut his big fight scene. A longer fight sequence between Rory and Francesco, and dialogue between the Doctor and Amy at the episode's climax. That will never see the light of day, but never mind. Many of the costumes in the episode were taken from 15th and 16th century paintings, including the veils that the girls at the school wore. So there you go. Criticise them all you like, Connor Mountford. They're from paintings.
Only the veils, though. Only the veils, not the rest of the costume.
Well, it might have been one of the costumes that they took from paintings. We don't know.
Oh, we'll never know.
The chamber where the girls were drained was bathed in green light to hint at alien technology being involved, and to ease the brief glimpse of Rosanna's true form for the audience watching the CGI, which is fair. Part of this scene were cut out as the BBC deemed them too scary. So I guess we'll never see what was scary about that
BBC. Either. I don't believe that.
I don't believe it for a second. Isabella's scream at the start of the episode originally blended into the opening title sequence. However, it was decided the soft endings of this scene and the following scene with the Doctor at the stag do wouldn't work well one after the other, so the title sequence was moved further into the episode to take place after the scene at the stag do. Toby Whithouse liked this change, making for a unique opening into the titles.
I always thought that the opening was the bursting through the cake, and that's why when it opened in Venice, like, what's this?
Yeah, it's currently
going on?
I didn't remember it. No. It's true. While discussing the script with Toby Whithouse, Helen McCrory suggested that Rosanna should hurt Amy at some point in the episode, so it was added that Rosanna would bite Amy. So that was her idea.
Sure.
To bite someone. I too would bite Karen Gillan. Stephen Moffat chose Toby Whithouse to write this episode based on his work Showrunning Being Human. Whithouse had previously written School Reunion and would go on to write The God Complex, A Town Called Mercy, Under the Lake and Before the Flood, and The Lie of the Land, as well as appear as a German soldier in Twice Upon a Time.
Well, for me, at least one of those is a good episode that I enjoy.
Only one?
God Complex is pretty good. I mean, I'll have to rewatch it because it's been a while since I've seen that one.
I think that's an excellent track record for me.
Yeah, I know you're
Lie of the Land, maybe.
You're a big fan of Under the Lake.
Under the Lake Before the Flood,
which I'm not necessarily a fan of that one, but
everyone's entitled to your opinion, but your opinion's wrong. In the original script, Amy and Rory would confront Francesco after he drank from the flower vendor. He would escape by crawling up the wall, but the location meant that this stunt wouldn't be achievable, so the sequence had to be changed.
Ooh.
So instead we got... Imagine turning up thinking, yes, I'm going to do a cool stunt. I get to climb up. We want you to go and run away, please.
Could you imagine?
Okay.
I'd quit.
And then I quit. I don't want to. And then finally, Helen McCrory and Alex Price, who played Francesco and what's her face, Rosanna, would indirectly play mother and son again after this episode. McCrory played Narcissa Malfoy in the Harry Potter films, and Price would go on to play Draco Malfoy in the canonical continuation on stage, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. So there you go. Isn't life weird?
Yeah. Lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's lovely in it?
Also, rest in peace, Helen McCrory.
Yes, that is sad. That's not lovely. That is not lovely.
No.
Want to stress that now. It's not lovely.
No.
Anyway, good fun facts. But out of 10, what are you giving this episode?
7.5 from me. A solid
Oh.
outing and a big surprise. But there you go.
Fair enough. Mine's a 6.5. So rating wise, we're not too far away.
No, 65%, right? It's a 2-1 at uni, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
It's been so long. I can't remember.
I sort of looked back at what I'd done previously, and I was like, it's better than The Beast Below, and I think I gave that a 5.5. And I was like, it's probably on par with Daleks, Victory of the Daleks, which was 6.5. So I went 6.5.
Fair enough.
But I mean, I'll probably watch Victory of the Daleks again just because Daleks.
Yeah.
Which I think is fair.
Yeah.
But yes, that's it for this week. Next week is Amy's Choice, with Toby Jones, guest star Toby Jones. Not Zemo. Who did he play in Captain America? Zola.
Yes, Arnim Zola.
That's
yeah,
it. I was close. Zed, and
all the Zeds and Captain America villains.
Yeah. Yes, he is the Dream Lord, I think is his official name.
Indeed.
Amy, Rory, and the Doctor are trapped in a dream world. One dream world.
One sole dream world.
Only one.
Only one of them.
What do you remember about this episode, and are you expecting to like it or hate it?
I'm hoping to like it, as I often am when I watch Doctor Who. I hope I hate this one.
You never know.
I expect to hate it. That's a good attitude to have when you go into an episode.
Always go in with hate, and then you're always pleasantly surprised.
I mean, no. If you go and want to hate something, you're going to hate it. Ask anyone who goes to the cinema and wants to hate a movie. They will find something to dislike.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always really enjoyed this one. I know it's very well regarded in general fandom anyway, and I think for good reason. I'm excited. I think Toby Jones is a fantastic actor, so I'm looking forward to seeing his turn as the Dream Lord again. I really like the concept behind him, and the ultimate reveal of what he is also very cool. And yeah, I like the whole aspects of Amy having to make a choice. It's a very aptly named episode title, I think.
Yes.
I imagine it took them ages to come up with that title. But yeah, I've always really enjoyed this one. I'm looking forward to seeing the old people with the eyes in their mouths. I'm looking forward to seeing Rory.
Child murder
is always good as well, yes. And Rory beating up an old woman is always fun.
Rory murder,
just murder.
For the first time. Here we go.
All the murder. Yes.
Start Rory death count now. He's gonna die.
Though it's not technically a real murder because it doesn't actually.
No, I mean, he dies twice in this next episode.
But they all do. Yeah. So it's an even tally even then. So it might not count. But yeah, I'm very excited to revisit. Hopefully, it holds as well in my regards as I remember it doing. But I think it should be a good time.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. I've always remembered enjoying it, even if I don't enjoy Rory's ponytail.
I just forgot about the ponytail, yeah. He cuts it off and then she's like, I'm just starting to like it.
Yeah. It's like, I also like that so that they can confirm, so that they don't have to use the same set again. They're like, yes, we're in Upper Ledworth now. I'm like, oh, come on, guys. Please.
It's too expensive to film
it's
here
too
all the
expensive
time.
to go back to the other Ledworth. So now we've moved up to Upper Ledworth. Sure, okay. But yeah, I remember liking it a lot. I think Toby Jones is a very interesting villain. I think his sort of who he is also left a little bit open at the end, which I quite like. I quite like that sort of who he is and what he could be. And there's always potential for him to reappear in other forms, which I'm sure he has. I'm sure there's a Doctor Who comic where he's involved in some form.
Yeah. Or they've recast it for Big Finish and then Batman's playing it or something.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I think it should be a good time, hopefully. Well, for us at least, not for the characters.
The characters are in for us. They're in for it.
But yeah, that's it, I think, for this week. And we might be back with some Doctor Who news in the week. Depends what happens. Who knows? All sorts could be going on. Will we get a title sequence for the centenary? Will we get anything for the centenary? Probably not. But who knows?
It's 4 months away, so I'm going to say no.
No, it's not.
They normally start about a month before it airs. So
yeah. I mean, yeah, that's it. Normally BBC's protocol is a trailer will come out 2 weeks before the air, or sorry, a teaser comes out a month before with no air date, and then 2 weeks before that's when they put the date in. At least that's what it used to be. They might have changed it now, but I always
Yeah.
remember as soon as you saw that first sort of teaser with no date, you're like, oh, it's within the next month. And as soon as the date came on, you're like, oh, great, that's soon.
Yeah.
But with Flux, they did the Comic-Con thing, and Comic-Con's at some point this summer. I can't remember if it's in person or virtual again, but I'm sure something will be happening. So we will keep our eyes peeled, because if anything happens, we will naturally be talking about it. Because why not? Hey, it's a good show, and we like it, so we'll talk about it.
And there's nothing you can do to stop
Literally,
us except report this channel, but don't do that.
Yeah, you can't even do that. What are you going to report for? Too many swears.
What are you going to do? Stab me?
Joke's on you. I mark this as not for kids, so you can't even get me on the swears.
So fuck you.
Literally.
No, not literally.
Yeah. Oh, no,
now they can report us.
Oh
God! Cut this bit out.
I've made a terrible mistake. No, before we dig any deeper, that'll be it now, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.